Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of OverBOTCH, baby. The show where three dudes, today only two, talk more often philosophoric about our favorite esports scene, the Overwatch League. I am the Drama King. I am joined once again by Plexamatic from across the pond. We will hopefully be joined by Richard, the Great Root Bear, as he is known on social media soon. Hopefully feeling a little bit better this weekend after he had a rough weekend for all his teams last week.
Yeah, they got butchered, to say the least.
Yeah, between New York and Toronto. But this week, Toronto bounced back a wee bit, just a wee bit.
Yeah.
But before we get into all that nonsense, today, literally, we are recording this live on a Tuesday, June 28th. And if you know anything from the Overwatch scene, what's going on June 28th, in about 50 minutes from now, the Overwatch 2 beta round 2 Electric Boogaloo does start. And this time, new map, Rio de Janeiro.
Yep.
And new hero, the Junker Queen, who we all saw debuted at the live stream a couple of weeks ago. And and now also consoles are involved.
So I could join the fray.
Plex can potentially join. Hopefully, I don't know if they're sending out emails this time or if it's just going to show up in your options.
We'll know shortly.
We will know soon. So yeah, you start getting those ding 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 dings for your notifications. Make sure you check it out. I think again, everything I've been seeing is like they're going to let a lot of people in. So I think the people who don't get in are going to be fewer and farther between. Just because like you can guarantee it, which I did. I will fully admit I copped out and got that watch point pack or whatever that guarantees you access. I don't think I needed it at all, but I figure, you know what? You already got, it's $40. You got $20 basically that immediately in the in-game currency, because when it gives you 2,000 in-game currency, which is essentially about $20. That'll get you the next two battle passes for Overwatch 2. As well as it gives you the battle pass for Overwatch 2. So that's another $10. So that's $30 right there. Then you get the legendary edition of Overwatch 1, which gives you like one extra skin, which I don't really care about. And I obviously already have Overwatch 1. But then it gives you the two Watchpoint skins, which are like, they're goofy, but they're fun. Like Space Raider, Soldier, and Cassidy, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. Hang on. There's a cat dying.
Okay. So for our audio listeners, Matt has got to quickly double check on his zoo.
Okay, stand corrected.
Everything okay there, sir?
I don't know what the hell that was. I heard our cats are pretty quiet. All of a sudden I hear like meow, meow. And so sometimes that little Harry Potter door, they can like, it's one of those, it's just magnetized or whatever. So sometimes they can pop it open. And I closed it right before we started. So sometimes they get caught in there and they start scratching at the door to get out. But no, it's just cat in the other room, just like demanding attention or something. But yeah. It's but anyway, so I ended up getting that Watchpoint pack thing too. So like of all the things, it's probably not the worst deal. I'm not saying it's some amazing
sounds like
steal.
A decent deal to me. I will say.
Yeah.
It's like I said, you get in-game currency, you get skins even if you don't use them.
Yeah.
And then you get access to the battle pass. So that's a pretty good deal, I'll say that much.
Yeah. And all things told, but
yeah, I'm unlikely to do it myself, but obviously I've got a different setup to how you have.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll see. I'm excited. Now it'll be interesting because tank queues, as we know in Overwatch 1, are like, 0. But now, obviously, in the beta with Junker Queen being available, I think those are going to be through the roof. Maybe that'll mean DPS will be the DPS
I doubt it
will be playable. I don't know.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of people queuing up to go for obviously the new heroes.
Yes.
So Junker Queen and Sojourn.
Oh, I guess because there's going to be a lot of players, especially console
Yeah.
players, who still haven't gotten to try Sojourn yet.
Yes,
So
that's
true.
those two. And also, you got all the heroes that have been reworked as well. So people are like, oh, I want to try, say, for example,
Arissa and Doomfist, too. Arissa and Doomfist for people who haven't been in the betas yet.
I will admit, I'm curious to get my hands on the new Arissa. As someone who plays a lot of Arissa, I'd be interested to see how she plays now.
Yeah.
To me, from what I've seen, she's more like a rushdown character as opposed to a standard one-place character.
100%. Way more mobile, way more aggressive, fun. But obviously, as we've talked about before, not at the highest levels of play, is not super highly picked or whatever.
It works out. It works out.
Hey, that's it. I was just trying to. I was listening to a different podcast that we're talking about. I'm like, wait, who tried to bust it out? Was it Kalios?
It was Kellen.
Now Kalios was
Kalios is Washington.
Yeah,
it was Kellen. He did it on Colosseo, and he basically hard locked it for the entire map.
Yeah,
I just remember.
That one. No, I'm thinking about.
There was also Mag.
Mag on the Justice brought it out for like a second.
Yeah, so catch the shock off guard.
Yeah, on control, right?
Kellen basically just hard locked it, and even in Mayhem Call, you're like, what the hell?
What is going on?
This is not classic Arissa where you just put a barrier down. You have to literally rush your opponent for the most part.
You rush forward, you're throwing spear. A lot of people were saying like the new Junker Queen could be kind of similar to reworked Arissa in the sense that, like, although the Junker Queen seems to have a lot more, I mean, I don't know if sustainability is the right word, but with all the life bleed she does.
Yeah,
she
seems debuff.
Yeah, kinda. And then has that ability to, a lot of people are talking about whether it'll be more of like not dive, but like rush in, do damage, steal life, and then use things like the ultimate to get out. Kind of like how some people use Doomfist, the ultimate to get away rather than like to engage.
Yeah, I mean, the engagement possibilities are there, but as you say, it could also be used to disengage. Because keep in mind that with the ultimate ability, it presents the debuff. As it stands, I think it shows up like Anna's bio.
Yeah, you basically purple people you're the purple people leader, and as you come swinging in with that charge or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see what compositions are built off of Junker Queen.
Yeah,
there's obviously with only one tank, you can't really pair up with an off tank. So, for example, let's say we're on Overwatch 1. I could see her being paired with a Zarya or a Diva.
Sure.
So, like double bubble style dive.
Yeah.
A dive variant.
Yeah, bubble her and then send her in with her ultimate or whatever.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see which characters get paired up.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting. And just to see too, like, what I'm really curious about is her melee, because she's got that axe or whatever. So like, but everyone's got a melee, right? Everyone's got a passive melee. Everyone, you get it close, you can hit him with an elbow, whatever it is, and it's all pretty much the same. But hers is the only melee, aside now, I think, from Zen, who has the knockback with his melee. Hers has the bleed. When you hit him with the axe, it has that life bleed, it has that life steal. So I'm curious to see how much that'll come into play. Like, it's not just just swing and it just counts for melee damage. Like it's more of a viable ability almost. It's like a secondary little passive ability.
Yeah, so to bring it up on my side. So it's the Jagged Blade passive. Quick melee wounds enemies, dealing damage over time.
Yeah.
And then there's an active thing where you throw the blade, and then activate to return it.
So that's
like a throwing knife as well.
Throwing knife with a hook though, too. So it's like hog.
Yeah, but I don't think what I can understand, it doesn't sort of pull the opponent back.
Oh, it does. They had video of it in the gameplay test. So you can throw it, and it's like, so if you miss and you hit a wall, same thing. You click, which I assumed it was going to be like, I think left click or right click, and then you can bring it back. But if you get it into somebody, I don't think it's not like hook. It doesn't bring him right in front of you, so where you can just like annihilate him. But it moves them like 10 feet or something, like closer.
It repositions them,
Yeah, it does bring them a little bit closer to you as you recall your knife.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I
Yes.
just thought it was sort of like I'll just return it kind of thing.
Right. Because
But
they
it
they
had that extra.
yeah. So like it's another one of those you play it on Ilios well, and if you're across the well, you could throw the knife. If they're on the edge, you could stick them in it and then
Yeah,
pull
and
them into the
also,
well.
in theory, you could use it to set up your ultimates, like position someone so they're in the middle of the charge,
Yep.
or even
Absolutely.
set up your teammates' abilities as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
like an antibiotic grenade, for example. You could do that.
Yeah.
So, or say a low health target, drag him to the sightlines of a Widowmaker.
Yeah. And she has the I maybe I'm wrong on this one. The one ability, the shout or whatever that helps buff
Commanding
her.
shout. Yeah, I've got that
Yeah.
on my side.
It has speed boost with it too, right?
Yeah, it says here increase health by 200 and
Yep.
nearby allies' health by 100.
Yep.
Increases movement speed by 20%.
Yeah. So everybody gets a little bit of a movement buff. Is it just her or is it the allies
It
get the
doesn't
movement
say
buff too?
for what I can see, but I'm assuming it's just her.
Okay, just her.
That's
Gotcha.
just my assumption. But once we get our hands on it, we'll be able to figure that out.
We certainly will. Again, which
Okay.
in about 40 minutes from now.
Yeah. So also, her next ability is Carnage. Swing the axe to wound all enemies in front, dealing damage over time. So it sounds like a Reinhardt swing.
So I guess that's where my confusion comes in a little bit. Is a little bit on that. And hey, maybe to get some clarification from somebody who also hasn't played them, we have our third has returned.
Hello.
He has arrived.
I'm back.
Hello, and I got to take this banner down because we have to see the name for today, which I appreciate.
Here we go.
The NYXL can't win bear. You didn't even try to be clever with this one. It was just the sadness. Just
they
are unable to win.
Technically, they did get one win against Vancouver Titans, so
that's not a win. That's like beating up a child, like
it's like kicking a baby.
Yeah, like I take no pride in that. It's like if I swat a mosquito, that's like beating Vancouver.
Yeah.
Have you looked at their map differential? I know everyone's on the whole.
We're gonna get into the standings.
Okay. But the beta, so it's beta day, Okay, so question for you two and for everybody watching. Did anyone buy the whole whatever?
The guy at the top of our screen.
Matt, you did it. Oh,
I know.
Oh,
and people are very split on this. So here was my rationale. I don't think I needed to. I think I was going to be in it anyway. But I was like, one, I never spend money on this game. So I was like, one, I was pretty sure, but I wasn't sure. So I'm like, may as well secure it because I wanted to stream it. So, but the more thing is, it seemed like it was a relatively, and again, big quotes, I get it, relatively fair deal as far as because some of these are really awful. And as we were just talking about this, because you get the 2,000 in-game currency.
Yep.
So the battle passes for each season will be 1,000. So there's the next 2 seasons of battle pass are covered. So that's $20 essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, they will give you the first season battle pass out of the gate. So that's another 10 or 1,000 currency, 10 basically.
So you're gonna have to pay.
That's $30 right there.
That's true. Although that's like, so
it'll be $10 a battle pass.
Okay.
So I get 3 battle passes, 3 seasons worth from that pack.
Yeah. So you're prepaying.
That's $30 right there.
Well, in that case, maybe.
And then two like exclusive skins, which are they're goofy, but I kind of thought they were fun looking. The 2 legendary skins that you were going to pay at least $5 on each anyway.
Well, every skin's going to be like 10 to 15.
Exactly. So I'm already at $40.
That's fair. Plus, you'll get immediate. It's different.
Plus, you just get guaranteed access,
and you're streaming too. It's different, right? Like you got to get in. So
no,
that's always curious. Because you're talking about the Junker Queen swing, her little hammer swing, do hickey, or her guitar swing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's weird because Junker Queen is super mobile. It's a very different way of playing the game, but it's actually how it makes sense for the way the game's set up. Now, I do think it's really funny that they really didn't try very hard. So they're like, what happened in the last Mad Max movie? We're going to do it now. We're going to have a guitar playing person who shoots flamethrowers like that person, like that war boy that was attached to the front of that one vehicle. but the derivative design aside, yeah, because she's got that huge melee, right? So I'm just like,
we were just trying to figure that out too, because it was like so unlike most people, her regular just melee has like life drain or whatever, has that bleed.
Yep.
But then she has this other like ability, which Plex was just talking about, where she swings the hammer in addition to the pole knife.
Yeah, the pole thing, the pole bit, like,
and the
again,
commanding shout, and
high mobility, and you get to pull people out of position, which I think is interesting. We don't have enough pulls in the game. Like, that's such a MOBA thing, slowdowns and pulls that are like proximity based,
especially since Orisa lost her Hulk.
Yeah. No, Junker Queen really reminds me of, like, this is the kind of character I would expect in a MOBA. Like, it's very much that style. Like, it's that, I never know how to describe it, but like when we had our league team at Revival and I was learning League, I was like, who's this bear thing character that just jumps on people and punches their face in,
Jumping bear.
And then the thing where you have to like aim the little, like, it's like an electric magical lasso when it pulls people in. Like, basically the way she moves really reminds me of just like those MOBA tanks where it's like you're hauling people into positions to smash their faces in, which I think is actually pretty cool, because one, those tanks are incredibly hard to use. Those types of heroes are super hard to use in a MOBA. But what I dig about it is that, Overwatch has always been meant to be a first person MOBA.
Yeah.
So I to me, again, like, I think we have to see how she plays, but I really dig it. Because she's got the shotgun, right? It's that like shotgun.
Shotgun's
like
the primary
blade, like a little
attack.
knife or something, and she throws the blade, and then she can pull you back with it. That's also her melee, because that's the hit.
Mm-hmm.
She's got her own version of like a rally, like a brig rally, right? That's the commanding shout thing. And then what I think is going to be interesting is that I think it was her ult, right? Her ult, I think, prevents heals or something like that.
It purples people.
It purple, which is
super
super cool, because remember, we were just saying there isn't enough anti-heal in the game, and that's what's always used for tanks. So you can imagine situations where like nade goes in, and because remember, the nade duration's been cut down now.
Yeah.
So nade goes in, but it's actually a really good, you can actually use that as a defensive ult, because now you can't just dive in if you have no heals. It just basically stops. So she's very much this kind of like high mobility, like field controller, very much a midfielder, if I could use like a football term, Plex. This is like real midfield general type stuff. I just, again, without having seen the game in action, and if she lands within the play styles, we'll see that soon, next stage. But I think that this could actually be very, very cool, because it slows the game down a little bit. And we've already seen time to kill is like a little bit different. Now, I think it'd be cool. I think it'll be wild in like the control maps for sure. I can't see a huge amount of utility yet in like the escorts, because it's like it's one direction.
It's going to depend on the map, because assuming it's a very compact map, for example, it's like you can get more value out of it. Let's say Midtown, your favorite place, the alleyway. Yeah,
you'll invite a team there, and they'll just shoot at the
compare that to say Junkertown Point A.
Correct.
So really open area. You're not going to run anybody down there, are you?
No, but I think it's great though. The drill down with a purple is awesome, because there's a great dive movement. Because that's the other thing you see the pulls a lot in like League. It's like they pull and then they collapse. Like it's two ways. So I think it's really neat. We just haven't seen a hero like this, and her mobility fits the style of the game. It's like we've added to Sojourn's mobility as well too, and I really like that approach. I'm just curious to see what it looks like, because she has also, of course, we don't know what it looks like in game, and we also don't know what the balances will look like, because she's not going to be the same.
That's what I mean. Is exactly, and in theory, it shouldn't be. I mean, right now she seems really, really strong. I mean, especially depending on what the actual numbers on the life drain are. Because if she can just run like charging around, die, and then and then back out, and then just be like, I'm sitting here healing forever. Like if it's like a couple seconds each time she wounds somebody, it's like she will be unkillable in a lot of ways. So I'd be curious to see the numbers on some of that
Well, that's where it gets interesting too, right? Like Orisa was kind of unkillable in beta launches until you realized that she's very killable. You just had to adapt a little bit. But remember, and what one really nice thing is we're far past now where we were with the original release of the beta, which was like that Soldier, Genji, Winston, Ana, Lucio, like that's all you ran basically. Like, and then like Doomfist came up at pro levels, but generally speaking, we knew what it was, and that already needed some changes. So again, I think it's going to be pretty. I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest, because she doesn't fit the mold of any of the heroes, but she does fit of what we've seen. But she does 100% fit the mold of what you would expect in a 5 versus 5 territorial battle game. Like I think it's a good sign.
To your point about the pulls, I mean, I play a lot of Smite on my own time, which is a third-person MOBA. And one of the characters of that is Sylvanas. One of his abilities is literally Roadhog's hook.
Yeah.
So that's something I've experienced in that situation.
Yeah.
So to see more abilities like that is going to really make things a bit more interesting. Going forward.
Yeah, she's better Roadhog. She's got a shotgun and a hook. That's better.
And we lost Richard.
I just insulted Richard. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, Richard. I didn't mean to say she was a better Roadhog. I know how much you love Roadhog. Oh, you're back.
I think I know what it. Oh well.
Poor little.
We got it back. Poor little
so how was the show last week, guys? I know I disappeared on you, and I know Plex, I still owe you that video. I couldn't open up the file weirdly on my phone, so I couldn't record it when I was on the road.
I'll resend it to you now.
Oh God!
You sent it as a rich text. Who sends a rich text file?
I don't know. It was Microsoft Word or something like that.
But it was an RTF. I haven't seen an RTF in like
15 years. Discord put it up as. I don't know what happened there.
I know Discord is weird. Discord is weird, guys. Discord is super weird.
If you this sounds like running from the issue, Richard. Somebody who didn't want to do his no, it was good. The show was good. We we had we talked a little bit about the drama that has gone on. A little less drama this week, but we talked about New York and Toronto's rough weekend last week.
Sucked. That was a bad Overwatch weekend, but this weekend was like kind of okay.
A little bit of a bounce back.
Yeah, I mean Toronto, we got our new coach now. We're beating up Washington. It's just like when Canada in the War of 1812, they beat up York, so we went down and burned down the White House. I think it's great. Like setting Washington on fire is like every it's just a requirement. It's like a tradition here. In Canada.
Somebody's gonna clip that and use it at Richard's trial one day.
No doubt.
But boy, New York, oof, they are they're like the bad era of the Mets right now. Like you're bad.
Wow.
Now I know they used to be owned like the Wilpons used to own the Mets, but I'm like, wow, this is it's rough.
It's really rough. So let's take before we dive into this weekend's. Do we want to take a look over, just kind of float over the results from this past weekend, or do we want to look at the standings?
I say we go at the standings.
That's what I was thinking too, and then we can kind of just break down and see how they did individually this weekend.
But I am digging Florida, as I mentioned before, Plex. I know there's some ups and downs, but that team is just so darn good.
They're fun. They are fun.
They're really fun to watch.
You know what you're getting with Mayhem a lot of the time. It's like there's no sort of big peaks, no big
but I like that.
They are consistent.
A little bit of consistency it's good for the league. Like San Francisco, SF is just like they just get those wins, but it's not just the wins, it's their map diff. It looks insane.
Look at
those are numbers that look like NYXL in their first season. Like it's gross.
Yep.
And can they convert that to LAN and tournament brackets? That's what we don't know yet.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? We'll have to see what happens this stage because I am happy they stayed on top of their game, which I think is great. Because that was a big question. Like, how were they going to look coming back after like 2 weeks after they kind of botched it in playoffs? I joke it was like they were the Florida Panthers. You're like you won the President's Trophy and then you get your butt kicked in like the first round.
Yeah.
Like,
Then
what's going on, guys? Now,
unlike
bad hockey management, they're not like changing their entire organization. They're just okay, figure out the problems. I think I'm looking forward, like already, I want to see what San Francisco does in playoffs. That's all I'm thinking now. Because
Yeah, I mean,
obviously
they're
they're
pretty much locked
making
in for the end of the season, aren't
exactly.
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah. And and I remember you guys were telling me there was like a weird rolling point thing or something silly that went through with the.
Well, things are rolling. So as you see, like you can even judging by this, so you can go up here. The regular season and the midseason madness qualifiers are the same thing because the points are continuing to roll over,
Okay.
as opposed to being separated from this stage to this stage. Some people are fine with that. Some people are very upset about that.
I mean, I can see it being good and bad. I mean, it's weird that you have these playoff rounds in general. If you don't reset, then what's the point of a playoff round? It's just the same. It's just part 2,
which I
right?
get.
It's
as
a
well.
sequel.
Yeah.
I do get that. But I mean, like, if you're as bad as Vancouver, like, you shouldn't. Like, I'm sorry, like a couple wins. It's like you had, like, you played. You know what it is? You play a really weak sketch. The thing is, it evens out by the end of it, and that's the whole thing. And I do get that, right? It's giving us like baby playoffs because what ends up happening is, at the end of the whole season, it's just how many you won or lost to get in, and I think that's actually fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think also it's a case of they trying to avoid what happened in 2020. I think it's like I'm not sure, Richard, you might remember this.
Yes,
Washington Justice. They basically they were one of the worst teams in the league alongside Boston Uprising, and yet they almost made it to top 4 off the back of Decay's Zarya.
Yes.
And a lot of teams have PTSD from that, including Mayhem. I mean, I always remember Mayhem went nuclear after they'd lost. Because it's a case of Decay came in literally last minute. They took out Raw, who at the time was not the best tank.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And slotted in Decay, and they just dominated.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was on the overpowered Roadhog patch. And everyone was like,
oh my god, the overpowered Roadhog patch. Jesus, I remember that now.
Yeah,
no, but like
Zarya Hog.
You know what I think is interesting though is that like our standings look. I mean, Spitfire's done a good job of, I think, backfilling where we had seen a more weakness and the schedule's leveling out.
They are,
That's the story for me. It's that I had them pegged a lot worse.
We had them down here. They were, it was them in Vancouver.
And like, you know, jokes aside about, you know, where Toronto and New York should go, it's looking pretty similar, ordinarily to what we saw. I didn't anticipate the gap between some of the squads. But you know, again, it's I have like Toronto and Washington is like very, very middling, you know, like they're exactly what I expect in the middle. I think that's going to be a really fun story. I have a feeling Toronto and Justice are going to be fighting up for the last playoff.
You know what? I've
got this feeling that's going to be the race.
It's going to be them back and forth for like who can overcome their issues and get into that top.
Because the problem is once you go below Washington, that's the next tier down. That they're like you're just it's tough. Like you're not like even with changes, there's no way it's going to happen at this point, right? Atlanta's held up strong. Houston, you know, again, we're seeing, we see kind of some flip flops here and there, a couple games, but like in the end, this is actually looking pretty good. Like all things said, right? I still think Glads though are like disgusting, right? You know, Reiner's been super awesome.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more of his play style as well.
Exactly.
What he plays on top of that.
Well, I want to see how someone with his level of aggression, again, assuming Junker Queen becomes something that shows up, like I just love to see that. But again, you know, this is one of those cases where like I could see someone like Dante doing really well with somebody who needs this high mechanical skill, good aim. I could see Dante being really
very mobile,
right?
Kind of thing,
so you know, I think we're going to see some major changes. But the difference is, if you take a look at the teams on the bottom, having a stronger tank is not going to help them. That's right. And do we have any more heroes though coming? Because I know they're going to launch some with the new game, but we're not getting them in this season, correct?
Unless, depending on, I mean, October 4th, when are grand finals? Are they in October or September? No,
I'll look that up for you guys.
I can make is that. I mean, we're not going to get the new. They're going to add the support hero. We're not getting that until the drop on October 4th, from what I understand. So
okay, so it's not going to happen then. That would be if they did, it would be a big mistake. In fact, I don't want to see that hero then. Because that'll be like when Break popped up.
Although they are doing one more beta before the October release, which could be in end of August to early September
Okay,
kind of
right
thing.
on.
So in theory, but even that feels late to try to then add
No,
into League.
I mean,
Okay,
don't put
so-
anything past them. Okay, Plex, what do you got?
Yeah, so I've just got standings. So the last week of competitions, this is week 27,
Mhm.
starts on October 31st.
October
really?
31st.
That's late.
Yeah, so play until November, if I'm understanding this correctly. I mean, this could
Oh,
all
we
change,
did
obviously.
start late.
We started
though.
late. That's true.
Yeah.
It could all change, but that's what it looks like.
That is a long ways away. That's
Yeah.
a
and
long way away.
if obviously the soft launch is October 4th, so
Right.
Okay.
there's still that chance, and obviously with another beta coming in as well.
If they drop, if they drop the support hero in the third beta, and then have some time between, maybe that's during the Countdown Cup or something. She could they could be potentially in playoff play if the timing works out. But that's all a lot of ifs.
As long as we don't see what happens with Sigma, because obviously a lot of people complained about Double Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Because the second Sigma was launched, he was meta.
Oh yeah,
locked in the entire time. So
yeah.
But I don't have a problem with Sigma comps, if I'm honest.
Well, no, and I mean now with the single tape, we're seeing a lot of Sigma actually in this stage right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So your Sigma players are having Sigma and Doom.
Yeah,
seem to be the primary.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and
we are seeing Wrecking Ball, but Wrecking Ball wasn't as important. It's useful finally, but remember at last Plex when we were talking, we're like, oh shoot, Wrecking Ball mecha, Wrecking Ball meta.
Yeah.
And it's like it's in there, but it's not as like key.
Yeah,
as
it's
we
kind of the
thought.
rock paper scissors effect
A
again.
little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have the rush comps benefiting from the Baptiste buffs as well. So
Mhm.
Yeah, and so speaking of the Wrecking Ball, let's move down, and then we'll kind of go into some of the individual matchups. Let's go down to the East, where
Valiant,
Valiant are, despite the absolute mind-boggling smorgasbord of utter toilet water going on behind the scenes, it's somehow moving them to
starting
wins.
to work. I know they're starting to come together, which is the weirdest
I mean,
thing ever.
I will say, not to sort of jump the gun on talk about the results, but one result was expected, the other was unexpected.
Yes.
I think you can agree on that one.
Yes.
And I think you gentlemen know the ones I'm on about.
Yes. We'll get into which was they played the Charge and Philly.
Fusion.
Right? Yeah.
Fusion. Yeah. The
Oof.
So I missed that game, but I saw it. I legitimately assumed it was an error on the website. Like I was like, oh
no,
because that's happened before. Like I've had it before where like the Jays lost to the Rangers, like in the playoffs, and the ESPN app had the scores inverted. I'm like, you friggin' jerks, you know.
Don't play with my heart like this.
I know. I thought it was weird. Like Soul, awesome, you know.
Continue to roll.
Smurf's looking a lot better, a lot more comfortable.
Well, and Guangzhou is actually being pretty consistent in having challenges because they had the thing is they took big losses. That's the thing, right? Like the game against Hangzhou. I mean, we know they're not going to pull that off,
right?
And you know, you do expect that 3-0, but like again, you get into their map diff because now we're getting enough games in where you've got. I mean, now when we talk about how close was it, it's like, you know, it's like whether it's an inch or a mile, it doesn't matter. Like you won, you've got to at least win maps. If your map diff is close and you've got a losing record, that's when I say, yeah, you've been pulling it close, but you're just not winning.
Right.
But if the map diff is gigantic, so we got a 622. So go up to like let's use our baseline for what the worst team in the league. So scroll up a little bit to Vancouver. Okay, 5-30. Okay, this is the most embarrassing level you can be at as a team right now. 5-30. Now look at Guangzhou.
Yeah, 6-22.
So you see, like obviously, you know, they're short on games, but they're barely above that pace.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So they are at the point where you've got Vancouver problems, and
then
that's actually an issue.
And look at the difference here, because from last place -16 map dip to the next place up is -3. More than that's 13.
I know
it
means
between
everybody takes
last
their
and second to last.
So what it means is when they lose, you lose big.
Yeah.
That's what it's really telling you. That's the problem, right? It's like it's sort of like why ERA in baseball is not good because if you just lose big, but you win more, but when you win by small amounts, it's irrelevant, right? You got the win. So you get these misleading stats. So this is why I like to look at this. All this is saying is when they lose bigger. That's an issue, right? They're not even splitting the games.
Well, it's not just that. It's that. So when I watched this past weekend, I just thought to myself, "Where's the confidence?"
I know.
There's just no confidence in them. It's almost like it's hard to explain. It's like I said before, how Guangzhou just kept waiting. It's like, oh, we're going to give this extra 10 seconds to wait for this one ultimate we might need.
Yep.
And then by that point, their enemies just sort of dived on top of them, like, hello, we're here.
Yeah.
And it just seems like they're waiting for the sake of waiting, and there's no sort of initiative to engage. I mean, I get if you want to play like a counterattack style, but even in playing a counterattack style, you know when to sort of set the tempo.
Right.
Well, and it's weird because the team's decent. Like Eileen, like Faraway's good, Krong's good. You know, what I think the biggest issue here is that Herbalife supplements don't work. and I think the big problem right now with Guangzhou is that they probably have the wrong Herbalife supplements in their training regimen, in their diet.
Gotta be.
You know, because if they use the correct Herbalife mix, which, you know, probably only costs an additional $500 to $600, and there's probably some sort of subscription model they have to sign up for, I think they'd be doing better.
And if you sign up for the subscription model over the year, you'll save $5 a month as opposed to just doing month to month.
And if you bring in your friends and family to also talk about the benefits of Herbalife products, I bet you their map differential will be better.
Well, here's the thing, though. If we're going to bring this into it, then clearly, you know, the Valiant not being able to eat enough because they've had to go into their pockets to pay for other players and are living off of ramen noodles and you know, water. They clearly... maybe that's that lack of their brains are running on full capacity because they're not worried about digesting food and
well, it's also like if that, I mean, no one's talked about, you know, what actually happened there. I'm really curious what the real scenario is, but put it this way. I mean, if your back's up against the wall and you got nothing left, you have to win. If they're literally paying players to come and join the squad, there is nothing. You can't take any steps back.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a team that's like, they want to win. They want to eat. They do not want to starve to death and be on the street. And this is, again, like there's some fight in Valiant right now. I want to see what goes on. You know, like we need time, right? You got to see how it sustains, right? But all jokes aside, I know it's been tough on a lot of the players and the teams. Like budgets are constrained right now. Yeah, right. So it's tough, you know, and like, you know, and I'll poke on in New York for being a bunch of lovable losers, but it's hard for the players right now, man. It's a bunch of guys. They're in the middle of Brooklyn, not an area that you typically, you know, it's a little bit tougher to navigate when your English is a second language, when you're in the area. Like it's the wrong part of the city to be in.
Sure.
But I ain't in charge of those decisions, so I wouldn't have put him there though. I would not have put them there, though. It's the absolute wrong place to have a team like that. That group of people. It's unfair.
Yeah, sure.
So results.
So So the other one, kind of branching off of coming on and talking about APAC and everything like that, and we talked about the metas and remember Plex, our match of the week kind of thing was right here, Shanghai and Seoul, which we both predded Shanghai and we were, trust me, I was looking around the internet and looking at other podcasts. I mean, we were not the only ones.
Seoul's the team, guys.
Yeah, but everyone thought, hey, Wrecking Ball's more viable. There's Sigmas in here. We're like Void on Sigma, Fate on Wrecking Ball. This Shanghai is going to kind of morph into their former form. This is where they're going to come back alive. And this is one, I did not watch a lot of APAC. I will say that. Yeah, but I watched this matchup because I wanted to see what happened. Yeah. And it's not like the Shanghai didn't like shit the bed. They just couldn't get over the line in those maps.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I picked up on was that it's clear to me that they need Fate in the lineup because it's clear that he is the team captain.
Yes.
Leader.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's nothing against Void or anything like that. All the players are top talent.
Yeah,
their positions. It's just a case of where's the leader. But the problem is with the meta. So Shanghai seems to be hard focusing on the Sigma comp. So for that you need Void. But at the same time you want the leadership, so you want Fate. So it's a question of either you run Fate and put him on one of his worst heroes, or stick with Void and try and hope that someone else picks up the leadership. And also, you have to factor they dropped DJ Gong because they don't need a main support at the minute. They've got Bebe playing instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair, Plex.
You take out two potentially key pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Is not in terms of playing style or rest of it, but in terms of leadership.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because, again, jokes aside about that game with Spitfire, you know, Excelsior's got this weird thing where they like almost get to almost full holds on like escort maps, and then all of a sudden it's the third point. You're like, what the hell just happened? It's like every single time they play, it's the streets phase of King's Row. It's like all of a sudden, no, you're just giving that one up because it's like King's Row is like 0.1 and 0.3. That's it, right? But they kept having this thing where they almost won, and then they give up 100% from like a 99-0. Like that's the team right now. And it's so weird because there's something that's going on in their decisioning and their planning, you know, because they are playing better than they had in the past.
Right.
But it's almost like they lack the durability, the intestinal fortitude to make it through the whole game at any given moment. They always gas out, and I don't know I wish I knew what was causing that, because there were a few times they should have had a couple maps from, I think it was it on Junkertown? I'm like, what the hell happened there? Or not Junker, Route 66. You're like, guys, you just had to get it around the corner. Like, I was like, oh, this will be easy. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's never as easy as you think.
And they were going like, and then their ordering changed, like the time on the dive was like weird. It's like Kellen went in and just kind of rolled around, and he missed a couple like really easy rolls where, like, I don't know if you saw that, but you know, the giant rock spire by the upper door when you're first coming around the corner, like he tried to come in on a big swing and he just smashed right into it.
I think I know you are. Yeah.
And I was like, what? That's what I do in the game. Like, come on.
I always think that when you see Prozer and you're like, that was a me mistake.
I know.
What is going on?
Look like me.
That was a Nene grab.
Yeah. Oh, now be nice.
To be fair, he did actually try and hit the Sombra. So
yeah. No, but that's one of those things where it's just like, I wish we had a little bit more insight into why strats aren't working. We don't get those kinds of traditional, like, I'm not saying you got to have a forced press conference after every game. It'll just be like a weird hockey or soccer.
Yeah.
Like it's weird, right? It's forced. But I think speaking, like having some discussion around that would actually be healthy. And here's why. Obviously, there's always going to be people being like, oh, blah, blah, blah. They're just washed, blah, 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 blah. But it's also useful because it helps us understand, and it helps viewers, the average viewer, understand why things didn't work. Because we live in a world of hypotheticals and conjecture and rumor. And I figured, why not just talk about it? Like, losing is a part of a game. It's not fun if you can't lose.
Try saying that to a Fusion fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Losing is part of life for
to your point, though, I mean, going back to San Francisco Shock for a moment, yes, they're winning all the time, but how much are you actually learning from those wins?
Nothing.
It's like
now. I know.
Every time you got teams that are losing. It's
what do you mean? You're okay. This I take a little bit of exception with this. There's just
here
a
we
little
go.
Fingers coming up. He's rolling his hands. He's gesticulating.
Yeah, for those on the audio version, I'm wagging my finger.
He's pinching his nose. He's tapping his head.
Yeah. No. It's like people like. I think actually Mr. X did it. It was like, oh, well, you know, we learn from the, you know, you learn by losing or something. Like, how about learn by winning? You learn what is going to work by winning, and you get the result. I mean, it proves, it validates your tactics, it validates your strategy. So that I think it's a little bit, again, of course you have to learn in defeat. I mean, that is the only way you will get better.
To be fair, you don't. One can learn from losing.
You should learn.
My hunch is a lot of people don't learn
count
from
that
losing.
Slightly. If you're winning, how do you spot your mistakes?
You aren't making mistakes if you're winning.
Yeah. Or, to be fair, you're going to lose the occasional team fight. So that's where you learn. There's always a spot you can improve, because in the end, it is you have a plan, and if it doesn't go according to your plan, and I doubt that everything's happening exactly as desired, that's a good thing to know. Put it this way, if they didn't lose a player ever, if they had 0 deaths, it is hard to tell what's more or less efficient. But losing a team fight, giving up a point you knew you should have held, that's also a learning moment too. Everything's observation.
Yeah, there's moments in the game. I think I understand where you're coming from.
I don't think we as fans learn anything because we don't know what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
But it's not this idea. I think it's not this idea of like, if you're winning, you're just like, oh, sailing along. I don't have to think about anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's a sports trope, right? Like not like that you learn from losing. I'm like, clearly not, because they're still losing.
Yeah,
like,
God,
what is
Vancouver Titans should be the smartest damn team.
Yeah,
in the league.
they're like the most intelligent human beings. That's in like MODOK brain, from like like their brains are so big they're gonna have floating cold fusion chairs to move them around so they can go to whatever the fucking market to get some fresh salmon jerky or whatever it is, and go to the Capilano Bridge or whatever it is because it's a nice scenic area, But really, it's not, because it's full of like 1,000 people trying to go down this single file weird rope bridge.
Yeah.
And it's just like a photo op from One Direction with a lot of angry people behind you. But no, I actually think that's the truth. If that was the case, like, how is Vancouver still doing this with that level of talent?
Yeah.
Like, it's just you have someone like Aspire on that team. Like, every time they go through
dragging that
Aspire,
team.
like, this is like Atlas with like, forget about Earth on his shoulders. This is like somebody like he's literally like, his energy is spinning the molten core of the earth to give us magnetic energy. That is the only reason we survive as a species. Like, that is the level of work. He's like, when Connor McDavid landed in Edmonton, it's like these are individual players that are like lifting them up. These are like the designated players in MLS, when it's like, sure, you are washed out of international play, but you come to retire and win an MLS championship at will. It's like what Gareth Bale will be like when he comes over to the MLS. Like, you on your own are going to make this team happen. And I'm like, you have that much talent. And then the supporting cast is pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
And they still can't, and like, but remember, consistency is key, guys. And we have the 33rd ranked tank in a stat.
God,
like,
yeah, that.
I mean, I know that was last week's stuff, so I don't get to really brag on that much, but I'm like, can I just say that the content put out right now by so many teams is friggin' awful.
It's pretty rough.
Awful. It's awful. Like, that's just demoralizing. Like, did you know you're 33rd out of 34 people, Matt? Like, it's awful, right?
Yeah, I mean, at least with Florida Mayhem, they just released the first edition of the Fuse for this season, which actually provided a lot of insight from Coach Gumbar. You have McGrady.
Great piece, by the way. Great.
I still have to watch it.
Nice stuff.
It's good.
It's good.
Good.
Matt, it's really good.
I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about that.
It's the stuff that it should be, but it's like all we talk about is like breadsticks and memes and like everyone's our friend. And I'm like, they're not your friend. Fine. Then just lose to them because you want to be nice then.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and
why
it's
are you
one
playing?
thing. It's one thing when some of that, like, that's peppered in, or like we're riding on a joke or something that's trending or popular. I get it. But when it becomes the like basis for all of your content, gets to be a
well,
bit
that's
much.
all they can talk about. It's like, ha ha ha, we lost again. Okay. Like, you're okay with this?
A little bit.
You're okay
a
with
little
this.
bit.
Like, it's just a hockey saying, right? It's like, it's not about you love winning. You got to hate losing.
I know that's your big.
You have to hate
I get that.
losing, right?
The best way to describe Vancouver right now is San Marino in the football. Whenever there's football qualifiers and you get San Marino, that's an easy win.
It's just known. It's like a sure thing.
Yeah, it's like anytime you face San Marino, it's considered a defeat if they score a goal against.
If they, I was gonna say that. Like, when you give up a goal, you've lost. Like, you have it is a Pyrrhic victory when you make it through if you allow them to score. Yeah. No, but I actually think it's good that we have high performing and low performing teams, right? It's like, I used to always joke when you played sports games in the 90s, like those early NHL games or early FIFA games, there were players and entire national teams where the average rating, I'm Plex, I don't know if you'll remember this, but you could be rated like in the 30s, 25. Like your speed was like 20. Like you were literally a slow moving character on the screen. And so if you could win as that team, it really said something. That's like, so there was an ongoing joke. I think it was USA 94 or FIFA 94. For whatever reason, they made the Nigerian team like so bad. And we used to joke about, I think if I'm remembering the name, and someone's got to check this, because if I'm right, this is legendary. I think it was Joseph Mwobo was the name of the keeper on like Nigeria, and you could score from this goalie for keeper from midfield because they just couldn't move. Right?
Yeah.
Now the thing is, in modern sports games, everyone's rated like 98, 99. Everyone's obviously there's a scalar, but there's no scalar left. And the thing is, we don't have salary caps in a league that has no salary caps, right? That is, you build your own team, and that is in an ever-changing environment. We should see variance, and that is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing teams, systems, and orgs that get it, and we're seeing them that don't. And like Paris, I'm glad I think they got a couple maps here and there, but they're looking, Vegas is looking a little bit better,
Yeah.
But
I'm actually just looking at who they faced this past week. They lost 3-0 to Boston.
Yep.
And I think they took a map somewhere. No, I think so. That was their only match that week.
Yeah, they only had one match this week.
Yeah, I think it was last week they took some maps.
Yeah, and then the combo was it Wub and Dove?
Yeah,
looked like it's good. It's a good combo and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, Boston's having a little bit more success too. And
yeah, and I will say just real quick on the Mayhems that they had a tough week this week in terms of who they were facing, but in both games they looked really competitive. Dallas looked at times uncomfortable, especially on King's Row when Checkmate was just going at him. And against the Shock, again, that first map on Coliseum was brilliant. And all the way through the match against Shock,
they have a good push game. Mayhem's got a good push game.
Yeah, so
in general.
So yes, they lost, but the final results don't tell the whole story, in my view.
Yeah,
I
they don't always. Games,
and they were competitive the entire time.
And you could say the same, like that was a similar thing. Like the Titans they did have a couple, like Aspire was popping the hell off. Like they almost took maps off of like Dallas and stuff, but almost unfortunately doesn't get the job done. But hopefully it just means that they need those couple of inches. So
Richard, let me ask you this: Aspire Vancouver Titans, Sire player Florida Mayhem, similar situation?
No.
Season 1 Florida Mayhem.
Oh.
So with Sire player,
I'm sorry to all my former Revival friends, because we did come out of the Mayhem Academy, but kind of, yeah, it's very much that, right? But I think it's actually worse. I think Aspire's potential, I mean, he's doing stuff he shouldn't be able to do. Like, the game is a 5v5. It's already different. You already have, like, as a deeps, like you do, like you've got one less tank to work with. You don't really have that defensive kind of shield to hide behind. Like, the game is more ruthless, and Aspire is doing amazing things. I mean, if I were Vancouver at this point, if you can even pull this off, they're so bad, I would trade him and I'd rebuild my team based off of that. But they don't have trades in this league. But that's what they can't build around him because they're in such bad shape.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? It's like you're going to pull up Peter Pocklington and you're going to sell Wayne Gretzky to the Kings, to a market where he will grow and be appreciated. But the problem is there's not enough consistency in esports. The kid will just end up in Valorant or something, So
yeah,
no kidding.
But honestly, like he's like, you know what it was that did it for me? That just, it drove me crazy seeing him do this, and they got nothing. The team, like, they didn't pull anything off. Was when he did that little hop blink, and then he did the stick at the top of Eichenwald, and he like hopped over, and then he like went back and then killed somebody on the way back. I'm like, he's doing this like,
it's insane.
It's just silly. and like you're breaking the constraints of the game, and that's awesome to see.
He's trying to grab the match by the scruff of the neck, and
Yeah.
yet nobody's piggybacking off it.
I know,
But
and like
we'll see what
that should
happens
charge
this
people
week.
up. It should bring people together. Like there should be some fire going, and like maybe this is because they're always like talking about ice and Yetis, but they are cold, man. This team is not lighting up.
Yeah.
And you have a player like that, you know, it reminds me of like Sabiaby would light up that team. Jonak would light people up. You know, Mono could light people up. Mecha could light, you know, like you got that, right? I would joke the only guy who didn't light people up was like Ark. He was just kind of quiet, you know, like he's, you know, but that was the thing though. You and we've all been in those situations, and it happens in regular sports and esports. I'm certain it happens in the ring, Matt, when the spot goes and it lands, and you get that focus, the adrenaline kicks, and I just like this team. It's like trying to get like I don't know, like salmon at a fish counter to like come back to life and go upstream.
Yeah, you know? it's hard when it's and I feel like I agree. Like it should light the other members of the team up and be like, let's rise to that level. Let's, you know, instead. Whereas I think with Vancouver, it feels like there's a lot of Rick. Spire's really good. Let's just toss the ball over to him and like hopefully he'll run it down the field.
Exactly.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And then we're like, no, you need to rise with him. Yeah, you need to rise with him.
As far as I go to the show, it's like, where are you guys? I'm getting a 5K.
Yeah, like
at
least be getting the point and anything. And that's actually a great transition for our last kind of like recap of the weekend. Being on point. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, in the game of Overwatch, regardless of whatever mode it is, there is an objective, whether central or a moving payload or cart. And to win said game modes at various points throughout the matchup, you need to be on that, especially at the end when it is in what we call overtime. And if you are not on there, you lose. This message is for the Houston Outlaws who, look, it happens.
Charlie 9.
Good old Charlie 9, which, again, if you're newer to Overwatch, don't get me wrong, it's not when you simply lose the fight and lose the point. That happens all the time. But when you are actively winning a contest, you are outnumbering the team, you are getting the kills, but then you step off point to do something, maybe to get another kill or to go help another teammate, and you just give it up and you just lose. So that happened. And it happened twice in one game. That's what here's the thing. It happens to the best. I think from the top to the bottom, teams will do that. You think you're going to support somebody. You go, oh crap! I thought so and so was on the
Young Jin 2019, Richard.
On
Dorado.
Shit happens.
The truth.
But when two maps in a row like that, man, that was hard to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the comms breakdown was. That's got to be what it was. That somebody was supposed to stay and they rushed in. It was such a me playing quick play moment. It was just kind of a bummer. By the way, I did check, and that goalie on Team Nigeria in FIFA 94 was named Mwobo.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know why I remember that. But
as I was watching that match, Outlaws versus guys, I thought to myself, who's keeping track of overtime? Because obviously, the longer the overtime goes on, the quicker the wick goes down.
Yes.
So I'm thinking to myself, have they lost track of how long it's been overtime?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe they thought it was going to bleed slow. They could go dive and then dive back or something like that.
Yeah. Or it's a case of, as you said, maybe a breakdown communication. One player must be told, okay, hey, my turn. I'll take over. You go and attack. And
here's the other thing was that on the push map, it was winnable. Like it was not the thing where they were on like the other side of the map. It's like, all right, we got to push this 100 meters or whatever. It was like, I think Glads had gotten it like 75 and they were at like 70.
Yeah, it was watch Gibraltar in overtime. It was second innings.
No, I'm talking about
push on New Queen.
Yeah, push on New Queen.
That's back maps.
That was the one where it was like, you guys are like 5 meters from tying and then potentially passing this up, like in overtime. You can win this. And so at that point to not be like dead on your comms and everything, to be like, we need to pushing this robot.
Looks like
everybody surround.
As a comparison, Florida Mayhem when they faced San Francisco Shock, Hock, they were in OT at the end of Colosseum, and what they do is they left Animo on the bot, and everyone else went forward to try and body block. So it could have been that Hughes were going to try that kind of trick, but failed to execute.
But they didn't push forward. They remember who was it? It was Merritt and Dante, I think, who like they dove back because I think they thought somebody was flanking or something, and I think they got the kill. They got whatever kill they wanted, but
Good for them.
Kudos, but yeah, they couldn't get back in time, and it was
that was weird.
It was
super weird. That must have been really
It was frustrating for the Outlaws fan base.
Did you yell at the TV? Did you yelled at the TV?
I didn't yell. I just went.
For those of you who aren't seeing the video podcast, Matt just pulled a face.
Just jaw drop. Just jaw. I was like,
Patrick Star after the hamburger car gets eaten in the SpongeBob movie.
That happened?
Was you.
Really? Again?
Yeah.
The first one is that on nuts, kind of like shit. Like shouldn't have let that happen. All right, whatever. We go again. Then the second one was,
yeah.
So it was
two maps. To their credit, they didn't do it on map 3, but they still lost.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean,
setting the bar low.
You're supposed to play the point.
Yeah, that's the point.
So I mean, what do we have on? I mean, well, we also had a lot of news that happened this week.
Well, yeah. So like before we move on to taking a look at the week ahead, I did want to the most recent piece of like drama was from the desk of the interim president. Perhaps this one is. Maybe this is what led to Boston's recent turn of favor the last couple of games or whatever. But yeah, Chris Huck Laranger, who we kind of highlighted on this show earlier for the two different letters they had for when they released Marvel and Stryker, and how very, very different those letters were worded from the letter from the president, which we memed out of our minds as much as it was. Well, said president has been impeached, as the internet wanted to put. Huck is no longer the president. He has been there since the inception, since the beginning, and is no longer the president of the team. And a couple of just interesting things from the letter is the idea of difficult decision, whatever. We hold competitive viability as our North Star, and we believe this change is best for the long-term direction of the organization.
Who words a letter like that?
I don't know. I'm like, I guess they clearly thought the president had a massive effect. The corporate president dude had a huge effect on the competitive viability, and classic, we wish him in his future endeavors. The other one was they named their assistant GM will take over and operate as the interim as we look to, quote, readdress our roster.
So that's a grammatical error. You don't readdress it; you address the roster. This would imply that they have addressed it before.
Well, I mean, they got rid of Marvel and Stryker, and so now we're going to address it.
Yeah, but you don't readdress. Just say address our roster or our challenge,
or reevaluate is what I would.
Yeah, reevaluate is what they wanted to say. Readdress is just that's not a word.
I think it is a word.
No, but like in this context, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I see what Rich is saying. It's like
no, I agree. It does sound weird. I believe it is an actual word, but in this scenario, I would have just said reevaluate or address our rest. But the deeper point is this: are we getting more changes here?
Well, remember Boston had some major shifts, right? Oxygen is bought up a chunk of that team, and I'm biased because I actually do like what Oxygen Esports has done. Right, build up like local infrastructure, build in the city, all the stuff that was supposed to happen with things around Overwatch League. This is what's important. None of this stuff matters if you don't have more people coming into the system, right? It's like hockey has this problem right now because it is ridiculously expensive to play now. So our side of playoff like leagues are not, like house leagues aren't working right now because you can't get enough people because it costs an arm and a leg. Part of the game is to have developmental. Oxygen's coming from a local perspective. They've got teams in other franchises. I'm totally biased as well too because Chris Gronkowski is part of that investment crew. So like much love to the Ice Shaker crew. I'm totally biased here.
Another Gronk.
As much as I will tease about organizational announcements or anyone who writes like future endeavors and stuff, because that's just really corny. The reality is notice that it says it's the Boston Uprising and Oxygen Esports. We haven't seen them be mentioned yet. This
Together,
is their first major decision. And I think, honestly, this is Chris, man. Chris Gronkowski. Like, you trust me, he knows what it is to win and lose. His family knows what it is to win and lose, to be at that end and not pull it through. But the reality is that it's about how you build a system. There's so many reasons this can come up, and we've talked about this before, right? There, when you talk about competition and you talk about what it takes to build up a player psyche and things like that, you know, I joke, there's everyone in the world, and then there's like gamers in esports. And like, for whatever reason, people in gaming are like, well, I have my own mental, and the mental's down. I'm like, you have none of the tools, none of the utilities, none of the approaches, none of the systems to better address these. You're like, oh, my Discord chat's going to help me out. It's not going to help you. I feel better when I get Twitch subs. No, that's not helping you. These are basic things that we know people need. It's like, you got to learn how to handle loss, how to handle conflict, how to handle wins. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, just as important.
Like, in team sports, learning how to handle wins and what that does to your team's culture is, I mean, Sabielby said it best. He goes, we got complacent. Winning was too easy for us. We stopped training as hard, and then they got their asses kicked. And he was open about that in those early days of NYXL. That's why some of those big losses happened. And in the end, as much as we'll joke about the statements and make the memes about it, there's something to be said. Because a lot of people will say, well, why are they talking about the city? That's kind of corny. Why is that? That's weird. I'm like, because this is where they're from.
Yeah.
This is important to them.
It should be.
It should be. And if you want to meet folks who are serious, man, about Boston, it's going to be Oxygen and the Gronkowskis. Like, don't, you know, you can't, like, that is what they are made of. And like I said, I see this thing, and I think honestly, it probably had to happen, because you think about it. Imagine what would happen if you brought in traditional, like teams, coaches, people who do like proper sports psychology, not like our weird separate version that we've invented for gaming. Because for whatever reason, like any other product, we give ourselves the crappier version of what is normative on the planet. And you know, it could come down to simply like, I don't get this. This guy's using a lot of words and phrases, but I don't know if this can work. And I'm not saying I don't know, Hawken. I actually think, you know, people will pick at like, oh, do really well, trade a bunch of players, do really well, trade a bunch of players, but they made money. Yeah, that was maybe that was what his goal. Maybe that's what his mission and mandate was. Who are we to judge that?
Sure,
right?
The best comparison I have, and this is something I said in Mayhem Call at one point, was Newcastle United under Mike Ashley. A lot of the time they would get players and then trade as soon as they were sort of peaking, sell them off.
Welcome to the championship, my friend. That is the goal of every great football championship level team, right? You are never going to make it to the Premiership, but your goal isn't to make it to the Premiership. Your goal is to finish like 4th in the championship and continuously sell players. That's your goal, because you are a farm system. That is, in practice, you're an extension of an academy, you know. And I actually thought that Huck made some, like, people are like, oh, but he sold this, sold that. I'm like, yeah, you know how many other teams manage to sell anything, do anything, like actually, like that's good part of the viability. You have to do that. So again,
at the same time, you've also got to think you want to give the fans something to cheer for.
Oh, no, you can oversell. You can't lose. I mean, you're not the Toronto Maple Leafs. You can't just be an atrocious team that will win because, like, always financially wins because all your seats are sold to corporate, which, by the way, Nazem Kadri has a Stanley Cup ring, and the Leafs got kicked out in the first round. And I love that as a guy who is like a huge Nazem Kadri fan in Toronto. He had a great line, guys. I don't mean to go on a segue, but basically people were like, he's a liability in the playoffs, gets penalties and suspensions. He wins the cup, and in his interview, he goes, hey, to all those people who said I'm a liability in the playoffs, you can kiss my ass, because he was a beast in the playoffs. Anyway, I digress.
But I mean, going back to this for a moment, it's a case of look who's coming in as well. It's Mineral, and he was a coach for the Florida Mayhem in season 1.
Yep.
And then he was a coach. He started with them in season 2. But dropped out when they moved to a full Korean roster because he felt that he wasn't the right coach to take that forward.
Yeah.
And I respect him for that.
Yes.
He goes to Boston in 2020, and the team under his management.
The thing is,
mayhem.
I think this happens though too because you don't have any other choice. You can't remove both people, but you do have to remove one. And you would, if you need to make, and we've all seen this, right?
Gotta go to the head of the snake.
There's that standard domino effect. You've seen this, right? Like Plex, we see this all the time, right? The coach is always first because you never get rid of the players, like in football.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, but you can get in, and the coaches are the GMs in many ways. Like they control so much of the system. But here, what you do is you get rid of the coach right away. That happens all the time, and then you get rid of you change the GMs. So there's typically two levels. For us to just swap out the GM though in the end, it's you may want to move a completely new direction, right? And look, I'm making this up. They may want a full-time GM who's from Boston because they want this person to also be the brains behind how they do like localized league builds and infrastructure relationships. They've got like land centers in Boston. Right? They are fighting to become one of the 3 big cities in the Northeast that supports esports between New York, Philly, and Boston itself. Right? And Boston needs that energy. They need some of that build. Same as Chicago. Same thing in the Midwest. Chicago needs that as well too. There's probably a bigger plan going to play. There's probably a certain set of skills that they need. And I think that honestly, I think people are being like weirdly hard on Huck. That guy has done. Look, he's going to have some wins. He's going to have some losses. When haven't we seen that in Overwatch League, given the nature of the game? I think it's easy fodder. I think it's, I'm a little bit bummed, partially because this is somebody he was one of the only people left standing from the beginning. Like, you really think about that. How many people are left?
Yeah.
From when we started Overwatch League, when this was supposed to be the league that was going to change the way we look at competition, it was going to become a spot where we're going to connect different generations and interests. That's what brought Huck in. So when you're the last team on a team that does value longevity, like Boston is an unusual team in that sense. They stay to the core of their management. Every other team's like they would hot swap them out like, SCSI hard drives. Like, this was this thing doesn't happen quickly. And I don't think in esports it shouldn't. You should be allowed to lose. And in this level of competition, or in this world, people refuse to allow people to lose, which means you can't actually like try to attempt to come up with solutions. It makes everything temporal. So in that sense, I'm a bit bummed, that it's come up. But I got to say, you got to have respect for somebody who's done it for so long, right? Like Huck it's not just Overwatch that he's done, right? Like this was, in many ways,
StarCraft player as well.
Exactly. And I can tell you, talking to Ben Nichols, like Mr. Bitter, when he was in NYXL, like I know when he saw that Huck was at Boston, it was like, it was one of those things where it meant that some of the folks who'd been there from those early days and made it, and it was pretty awesome, right? Like, and he's had a unique path, not the easiest one. And it was one of those cases where it was like Huck represents for a lot of folks that it's like that represents an entire generation of people who came into esports. A lot of those earlier builders, and that's why, it's a bummer to see him go. And I hope he gets onto some pretty awesome things. I'm really curious to see what he gets up to next, because the guy's he's got a big brain, man. You know what I mean? You couldn't have made it out of those StarCraft days unless you had a good brain, some raw talent, and a whole lot of fight. A ton of fighting hard.
Well, we'll see how Boston gets on next week, won't we, Matt?
Yeah. No, that's as we take a look at the week ahead. Speaking of wins and losses, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose.
Yeah, and Richard, you have the match of the week. So good luck, buddy.
Games. Which we have, like I said, we have reassigned the punishment rules. We're only going to keep it for when our teams play each other, so we're not doing it every single week. So it's a little bit more of a special attraction. But we can feel free to choose one of these. But what we're going to do, we kind of started doing this last week, Richard. It's kind of like a rapid fire thing. We won't spend too much time, but just go through each game. Everybody kind of give how they think the score line is going to generally look like. This is going to be a 3-1 Hangzhou. And we'll kind of just burn through them, give our light predictions for the week. So starting off Friday, kicking it off early or U.S. morning here. Spark versus Fusion. So Richard, I mean, how do you think this one?
Hangzhou's taking that one. I think they'll take it like, but it'll
Dominant?
be like a 3-2. Yeah, I think it'll be a 3-2. I think it'll be reasonably close.
I'm thinking map 5 Hangzhou as well. It all depends on if Fusion decide they want to play.
And I don't think I don't think the Fusion we like has been showing up lately.
They need to show up for 3 maps, not 2.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be a 3-1 at best. I think Philly. I hope they prove me. It's one of those prove me wrong kind of days.
Well, given how volatile the season is, anything can happen.
Anything can happen, and I'm looking forward to it. But on the opposite side of the fence, where I don't think anything can happen, Chengdu, Guangzhou.
That's Chengdu all the way.
I'll give them a 3-1. I'm a 3-1 on Chengdu.
Give them a 1.
Yeah, I'll give them a 1.
I'm leaning towards a 3-0 because you got Chengdu look comfortable in a ball meta. They always have been historically.
This is true. That's their thing.
And then Jinmu has been flexing a lot more. He's actually looking a lot more comfortable on his sort of non-specific picks. It's like we said, play Tracer this past weekend. Nor if he's called upon to play Tracer, he plays Sombra instead. So
true.
So if they can improve that comfort, I think Chengdu will really dominate against Guangzhou, especially given how limp Guangzhou have been as of late.
I agree. I agree. Moving into the West, Kingdom, London and Paris, the Battle of Europe. That's not actually taking place in Europe. Goes. I mean,
it's really London versus Vegas,
and which is really Dallas versus Vegas because that's where
London's definitely taking that though.
100%. I think this will be closer than this. Could be a 3-2.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I feel that.
Depending on how they play.
Good, but Spitfire, they look comfortable on their
and they look confident.
Yes, they do. They're looking awesome right now. They look a lot better.
So factor in that Christopher is on their coaching staff, and he's the former Fusion coach, and he's got them playing some really good stuff. So
yeah, he does. I mean, even Shaxa Sparker looking Backbone has been like on the May especially has been looking good in certain maps. So I think they are in a.
I was thinking Poco come in.
Yeah, and Poco has gotten a little bit of playtime.
Yeah,
especially in this Sigma is coming into play more. So, but yeah, I think it's a London win. But I think Paris put up a fight.
Yeah.
Houston, Atlanta, Plex.
Oh,
how do you think?
Oh, you'll put me on the spot.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to kick it off, baby.
Well, I've got to be honest. That one could go either way because both teams like to play the Doomfist comp.
Yes,
and they're both capable, if they want to play the Sigma comps. Because obviously, Outlaws have Piggy, and Atlanta they have Hawk.
Yep.
So that one could go either way.
Yeah, this one's a more even matched one than it appears. I think a lot of people are like, oh, Atlanta, because they've had such wild performances. I think it's even.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be pretty close. Like, look, Outlaws had a couple. They had a weird weekend, know, and they're a good team.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think Atlanta might squeak this one out, like as a 3-2, but I think it's going to be a close one.
For me.
Yeah,
my logic is with Atlanta.
You can't say Atlanta, Matt. You're not allowed.
Okay, because with Atlanta, they're able to say, okay, we want to switch from Doom to Sigma, and they don't have to switch a player.
Yeah,
Houston, they have to. So
that's always the factor. Me too. And I'm like, again. When it works, it works. But again, when you get stuck in that thing where it ain't working, again, Dante can't switch to anything.
Maybe tank. Zarya, but that's about it.
Maybe, yeah. So I think this one will be very close. It absolutely could go either way.
It's gonna be a 3-2 for me.
I do think, Atlanta is gonna squeak that one out for sure. Plus, Kai has been absolutely disgusting.
I was gonna say Kai duck and cover.
Good lord. That railgun might need a little bit of a nerf. The charged up shot, maybe just a bit. Speaking of getting nerfed, though, Glads in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto's definitely taking that game. But it'll be a close one. Glads I think might be able to come up a little bit with a bit of.
Yeah, they got. These
I'll
kids
give it a
got
3-2 for Toronto.
I'm going the other way. I'm going to say Gladiators with a 3-1.
Yeah, I'm
looking good, but
I think Toronto
their starting 5 is probably one of the most flexible in the league.
Yes.
Yeah, but like you heard how like was it Reinforced or whatever was like, I can't believe they're having Muse and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, he kicked their asses, okay? So Muse was awesome.
Muse is a good player.
Their bubblegum as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Glad's 3-1. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I don't
Canada.
remember this.
Please do.
You
But
rub it on
speaking of
those, you actually
a
win.
much more easy one to call, Seoul starting off Saturday. Seoul, Guangzhou. I mean, do we even need to talk about it?
No.
No. So yeah, that'll
That's-
be
that
ugly.
is
It'll be
that
very
is
ugly.
Literally the opposite ends of
Yeah,
the
that's a
standings.
3-0. It's one of those quick 3-0s.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
But moving on to something a little bit more confusing, more competitive. Valiant on their recent
Ooh.
charge
Mhm.
against the Chengdu Hunters. You think the
So,
Valiant
Richard,
keep the
you
streak
start.
going?
I'll give it to Valiant 3-2.
Wow.
I
I
honestly
think
don't want to call it because it's going to be a map 5, no doubt.
I
but
think so too.
I
Yeah.
don't know who it's going to be.
I think
I honestly
Chengdu
don't-
squeak it out. I think
It's
I think the ride doesn't end here, but I think it hits a speed bump here.
Yeah, so I'm leaning slightly towards Chengdu, but it's that close where one fight could decide the whole thing, in my opinion. 'Cause they're
It's-
both
it's-
looking good.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Normally, I think it would be clearer with Chengdu because I think Gaga's a better tank. But now that they have Marvel, it's a little bit more of it evens that playing field a little bit. But I still think it's 3-2 Chengdu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on, Shanghai, Philly.
Oh, Shanghai's taking that.
It
You
would
sure?
I would have been sure before this weekend.
No, but it's Philly. They'll find a way to mess it up.
That's in my head.
Yeah.
But then Shanghai just not being able to clinch any maps at all this past weekend make me nervous. But
Yeah. I mean, if Philly turn up, they could give them a game, but it's going to be Shanghai regardless, in my opinion, because they'll have learned from this previous week.
yeah, that's
And
a
I
good
think
point.
when they learn from their mistakes, they come back stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's the thing I've noticed about Shanghai.
that's true. Yeah, I'll go Shanghai. I'll go Shanghai 3-1.
Yeah, so at least a 3-1 for me.
Yeah. Then we have a replay of the Valiant. Blah blah.
It'll be the fastest game in Overwatch history.
We're
San
gonna set a
Francisco
new
Shock, It's going to be a new record. It's like that tectonic plate is going to cut up all the way to like Burnaby and crush through Surrey, and it's going to be such a disaster that like we're going to really see that the Vancouver Titans mascot is really just Bumble from the Rudolph stop motion animation from the 60s.
Okay, so let's all say we're all assuming 3-0, yeah? It's a shock.
Yeah. Time. How long is it going to take?
Yeah, what's the
19
time?
minutes 23 seconds, over or under?
That's the record, right?
Yeah, that's the current record from Overwatch 1. I don't know what the record is for Overwatch 2 yet.
But the problem is push maps because they take a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a built-in time. You can't end it early.
So we just had a push week, so it's going to be control first this week.
That's true too. So we may not even see push in theory.
Yeah. So
we're not going to see push.
19 minutes 23.
I think it'll be over. I don't think as much as I want. I think there's enough fight from people like Aspire and the talent to at least hold them at bay. They will get crushed eventually, but they will hold it. They will sit there manning the gun on the beach for at least a few minutes.
Aspire doing his best impression of Gandalf, trying to hold back the barrel roll.
Exactly.
Thank you, people who got that reference.
So yeah.
It's honestly, it is. 1920. That's tough to beat. That is like you.
Yeah, that's.
But I'm gonna say under anyway.
Just because you're gonna take the punt.
Yeah, just because it's Vancouver.
Yeah,
spicy, man. I like it. Glads and Washington. I don't trust Washington with my life anymore. I'm gonna say 3-0.
I'm going to say 3-1.
Glads will 3-0 that one pretty.
I'm going 3-1 because Justice, when they turn up, they're good, but they have a tendency to.
And they did pull off the map last time, right?
Spaghetti.
They lost 3-1 before, right? It was a 3-1 before as well.
So, because Justice have a tendency to use Avril's quote, as I said, drop the spaghetti.
Yes. Yeah, they do. So, yeah. But either way, Glads win, I think, pretty confidently. Toronto back on the scene with Paris.
Oh, that's easy Toronto win. Well, easy within. I think they're still going to give up a couple things. I think it'll be 3-2. To be honest, I think they're going to give up some weird maps.
Yeah. I'm on the same boat. I think 3-2 Toronto. I think Toronto overall has
3-2. Yeah, because Dove and Wub look scary good.
Yeah, Wub has been again. Look, I'm not just here to talk about how awesome these ex-Revival folks are, because that's kind of cheating, because like everybody played on the team at one point. But like Aspire is a beast, and Wub was on the squad too. But like Wub has been like steadily increasing in power and it's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
awesome. Like,
We
I
haven't seen his
love
whole
seeing
form.
that just like like from that first game when he was like thrown in with like no notice to just like like he's just going.
Yeah.
And he's not getting like not accelerating or anything, but he's just moving up, and I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I 3-2 is realistically it's gonna happen because Wob
agree.
can just out.
Mm.
Yeah, he's gonna do awesome stuff.
Moving back to the East, Hangzhou and
Seoul.
Seoul.
It's gonna be Seoul.
Yeah. So is it close though?
Yeah, I could see that being a 3-2. I think Hangzhou's got enough fight
Yeah,
in them.
same
They've
here.
got the talent.
Yeah.
I think Seoul's gonna have a great weekend in general. Like that's the thing. I think Seoul's gonna be. I think they're gonna start to make that distance.
Yeah, I agree. I'll say 3-2 as well, Seoul.
Yeah. 3-2.
But moving on again, maybe a little bit more of a nail biter. Valiant, who are on this roll potential, and Dragons. Do Dragons come back as strong as they
It's
do in
hard
that
to
first game? You
tell.
think? Yeah, right.
I want to say 3-1 Dragons, but I don't know.
Yeah, I say 3-2 Dragons. I think they'll learn. They'll come up.
Valiant.
That it happened
gonna
before they got Marvel.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
You know
I'm
what?
gonna
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see a 3-2 for
They
Dragons.
took Dragons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they took
fair.
Dragons.
That's
2
fair.
maps
be-
off them before.
I'm gonna be daring. I'm gonna say 3-1 to the Dragons.
Okay,
I'll go against you guys.
be really daring and take the Valiant.
No, I don't have that much faith in them yet.
Fair enough. And then the final day of Western play, Justice and London. This is interesting. London
Mhm.
on a roll, but
That's a seesaw one.
Yeah, this could
Go
go
either way.
This is a real case of like if that Justice shows up, they could potentially stomp London.
Yeah.
But that Justice has not been showing up
Okay,
lately.
so let's assume compositions for a moment here. So let's assume London run the rush,
Mm-hmm.
Justice run a dive variant. Historically, dive variants beat rush variants.
Beat Rush, yeah.
But given how good London are on that, I've got to give it to London.
You know what? I am too. I don't think there's not been enough consistency, and I have more faith. I have more faith in what London's doing.
It'll be a
Generally
map
speaking.
5. I'm going to say Spitfire.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 3-2. London.
Yep. I'm
gonna
in.
ride. I'm gonna ride that wave.
Right now, Richard gets to talk about his favorite team.
Yeah, buddy. Dallas. I mean, I'm sorry. That's a 3-0.
Yeah.
Maybe a 3-1. But man, that's a
Play
3-0.
Kellen Orisa again.
Please.
I think somehow New York is going to pull off something magical, and
This is the weekend.
get a 3-2 win for Dallas. And
Well,
I'm going to
you said
write to
Dallas,
unknown
Dallas.
and let him know that I just said that.
Where's my thing? In case of stupidity, break this or whatever. Where's my button? In case of hopium.
I think it's hiding on the mango.
Like, let me predicate that, that pred based on, I have a feeling that there's going to be a mysterious case of food poisoning from Jack in the Box. There'll be a little bit of E. coli action going on there,
Sure.
and that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to stick with that.
Okay. No, I believe in miracles too, and we will bow down before you should it happen.
I'm going to go with the perceived safe bet and say a 3-0 to Dallas.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna
Sorry,
go
Richard.
3-0. Yeah.
Damn it.
But in Plex, we come back to your camp.
Yes.
As Boston take out Florida. Boston is on a little bit of an upswing, but Florida is in that dead even consistency.
Yeah.
So Plex, how you feel?
Well, both teams to me are on a similar power level on their sort of top A game. But this is me taking my Mayhem hat off for a minute. I will say I like Boston's support line.
Mhm.
Crimso's looking good.
Yes.
Good. MC's looking good. And Faith has actually been very stable. But
Yeah.
in terms of results, I'm gonna go Mayhem. Not because of my bias, but I think Mayhem have enough quality in all positions compared to Boston. And plus, we've seen Exy come in this past week, and he looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
And then Checkmate surprising us with a Hanzo, which we've never seen him play.
Yeah.
So,
And even someone's Reinhardt was actually pretty good.
yeah, he's clearly been learning from Checkmate.
Yeah. He pushed a little too far in a couple of times, but like also had some nasty nasty kills and everything like that. Cleared the fields pretty well in that
Yeah.
game against Shock.
So,
That
let's
Midtown
say,
map was
special
good.
Colosseum, where he literally disrupted the tempo that Shock wanted to
Yeah,
play.
yeah, they weren't even. I think even Sam in the post match interview was like, "We weren't ready for someone's Reinhardt for that play."
Yeah, so I'm going to say Mayhem in a 3-1 because Boston on their day are a similar power level to Mayhem, but overall quality in all positions, Mayhem take it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I go 3-2. I think Boston still has that a little bit of the upswing going, but I think Mayhem have the overall quality to shut them down. Richard,
Mayhem are. I think are just gonna take it. To be totally honest, like I like where Boston's going, but I just got a good feeling about Mayhem. They've their consistency is really their strength, and but scoreline I'm not sure. But honestly, I think it's gonna end up a 3-1 for Mayhem, just because. Look, Boston's on an upswing, but you know what? When Mayhem lose a game, it's like Mayhem can keep it closer. So yeah, I give it a 3. I give it a 3-1.
3-1.
Likely.
Okay.
I don't think Boston's gonna get that second map.
Okay.
Plus, like the Xe is just. There was that one little play where he like shot someone in the head over like that one car, like when they were trying to take that point on at the Circuit Royale map, like he was like trying to like literally make everything happen by himself, and like that's the kind of thing Boston doesn't have right now. So I have a feeling if we get that and like, but then I mean he got taken down right away in response, but like I said, Boston doesn't have like response to the Xe call, so I'm vibing on that.
And then obviously with a second sniper in checkmates.
Oh, it's disgusting. Yeah, and that's the
on
thing,
a map like
you
that,
know?
especially. Yeah.
But I
It
didn't
makes
see
you
what the
wonder,
map.
did checkmate not play?
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's ridiculous. The team looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, whatever happens in those matches, I mean, we will be back here next week. Those will probably wrap it up there. Hopefully you all get into the beta of your dreams today. If you have, share it with us. Follow everybody on social media. Those will be listed down below as usual. Like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff helps out on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes, all that good stuff. But whatever happens as we barrel down our way into the Midseason Madness, I hope you are enjoying your time, and join us next week and each and every week for OverBOTCH. But for everybody else, for the great NYXL Can't Win Bear, for Plexomatic, I am the Drama King. Hopefully his prediction comes right and they do win this week. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next week.
Bye.